Hi, my name is Tracy Cook, and welcome to the podcast series Victim to Victory. This series gives a voice to those that have overcome obstacles in all forms, that dare greatly to share their real stories. Amazing humans like our upcoming guests that have seen hope and risen above those adversities to become victorious, that now go on to support, empower, and inspire others to do the same. So please subscribe, like, comment, and share. And don't forget about our Launch Brand and Market podcast course in the show notes. Our upcoming guest is a friend of mine. We met on a 2019 reality show in the United States. She is a powerhouse. She is an inspirer. She is an empowerer, and she leads from her heart. She is genuine and she is very real. She is a mentor in the network marketing space. Welcome, Lisa Barrett-Oliver, to Victim to Victory.
Hello, you're so great. I love that. You're so uplifting yourself. And I'm so honored that you would have me on your podcast. And I'm just so grateful that we were brought together back in 2019, just total happenstance and fate.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such an amazing journey, and just watching you empower other people, especially within your team and things like that, and just your journey and really stepping into your own authenticity as well. And you're just so real. Like you don't put on any airs and graces. You're just Lisa, but just the way that you actually show up online and in social media and in person is just so unique and refreshing in the world that we've got today. Now, obviously, you're not the Lisa now than potentially what your lived experiences throughout your life has made you. And our stories are our superhero cape and not our anchor. And I know how powerful and vulnerable your story is. And it's made you into the strong, determined, tenacious Lisa that we see in front of us today. So, where does your story start?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really want to get across is that we all have a story. We all do, whether it's a huge event that has happened, or maybe even just something small that, we may ourselves not look at as significant, but we all have things that we have to overcome in life. And really, if I look at my whole life, there's a lot of things that have happened, things that are sad, things that are traumatic. And then, but there's also things in my life that because of those events, I have to look back on and really see where I have come out of that. And, specifically today, back when, I think back when I was 30 years old, at the moment, I thought that was like, mature. And
Mm.
now at 55, I think, gosh, at 30 years old, I was just such a kid. I was such a kid. And to be that kid and to have an event like I did with my daughter, really, I look back on Lisa, the 30-year-old, and I really can appreciate who she thought she was this strong woman. And it's not that I wasn't, but I really just want to honor that young Lisa and what she went through and how she went through it. And it's kind of amazing. I have my oldest is 32, and I think about him, and if he had to go through the lot, he has my granddaughter. If he had to go through losing Nora, like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine that for him. Yet that's where I was, and losing my daughter, McKenna. And so my story really starts at being that woman. I was married, had two boys, and was pregnant with my third. And whether we all like to admit it or not, we kind of want that, a boy and a girl, or boys and at least, a girl here and there. And so, of course, I thought, oh, it'd be great. I have two boys, and wouldn't it be nice to have this girl have a daughter? And holding on to that, not being totally connected to it, but kind of wanting that, and then going for that ultrasound at 24 weeks. That's like right when you can find out, and learning that, yeah, I'm going to have a girl. and for the technician to be, yeah, it's a girl. And I was like excited, like, yay. And this had been the same technician through my previous 2 pregnancies with my boys. And I knew that there was something wrong from right after she said that. And that's when it was like, I didn't even want to ask. I honestly was like, let's just end it right here and be okay with what that is a girl, and we're all happy and this is great news. And then the next thing was, she said, I need to go get the doctor. And we found out at that point early on that she actually had a birth defect that would it would be pretty challenging to overcome. And this is back in 1998. And so, which doesn't seem that long in my brain, but in the realm of the world, it's decades ago. And to learn that she had a birth defect, it was called a congenital diaphragmatic hernia, which basically meant all of her abdominal organs were going to go into her chest.
Oh,
and
wow.
and that would mean that her lungs couldn't develop. So it was one of those things that it was, going through a pregnancy, knowing I didn't know if once she was born, if she was going to stay with us or not. And, that was kind of the beginning of it all, was how do I go through that? How do I go through a pregnancy and stay positive and, and encouraging to myself, because there wasn't a lot of encouragement around me. My doctors were not encouraging. I had to go I lived in Wyoming at the time, and the closest doctor was in the Denver, Colorado area. So that was a 90-mile drive. Not horrible, but not close. But that's where the specialists were. And to spend most of my pregnancy down there listening to, not the best news all the time, but they still, once I made my decision, like, yeah, we're doing the best, that we're going to do everything we can to bring her into this world as healthy as we can. And then when she gets here, to do everything we can to keep her here. I mean, that was my focus. So I did everything I could. And, and at the same time, I was practicing law. I was an attorney, a trial attorney, not exactly the most relaxing profession. And I had 2 boys who were, by the time McKenna was born, they were 8 and almost 3. So, not exactly the easiest of ages either.
And what a
And so
range of emotions as well, just going
right.
through that journey and being happy, but also trying to remain positive and do your career and still be a mum to the other kids. And it's quite a load to bear.
It was. And it's one of those things that I feel like, and I think about this often, even just daily now, how I've always had this knowing that everything's going to work out, no matter what happens, it's all going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. And it doesn't mean that everything turns out exactly how you want it to, but here I am, 24, 25 years later. And, it's as devastating as it was and as sad as it was. There's a lot of good that has come out of it. I mean, even in my own children, how they view the world and how they, I think, even look at challenges in life, because they saw, my sons, even my younger son, he was just short of 3 years old when McKenna was born, how much he remembers is actually shocking. And it just tells you the emotional impact of that time. And it really just sets the bar, of what you can overcome. And, that was part of it. Just, keeping your emotions in check. It was a lot of emotional ups and downs, and just always keeping my focus on getting her here. My focus was, we're going to get her here. We're just going to get her here. That's what my focus was.
And then just take the next steps after that. Just take
Right.
one step at a time, see what was
Right.
to come of that. Where did your
Right.
journey go from there?
Yeah. So then she was born. It wasn't as planned. We tried to plan it as well as we could, but sometimes plans just don't work out. And that's how life is. And so I went into labor, and in Wyoming, I didn't have enough time to get to Colorado on my own. So they had to flight for life me in a helicopter from Wyoming down to Colorado to the hospital. So I didn't have anybody there because nobody could get there as fast. And so it was basically me when I got to Colorado until, family could drive there. And so I got there, I felt like I really kept it together until I got in the gurney from the helicopter into the elevator. And when I came out of the elevator into the floor, that's when I just lost it.
Yeah.
I think it was just one of those moments I held it together as long as I could. And then it was just like the floodgates just opened. And I think part of it was I was now in a place where I knew other people were there to take care of everything for me. I didn't have to hold it all together anymore, just myself, that I had all these doctors and nurses and specialists around me that were really going to hold my hand through it. And they did. And they did a great job. And McKenna was born. And if you just looked at her, completely normal, beautiful girl. I mean, you would not know anything was wrong with her, but unfortunately there was. And so she went immediately into the neonatal ICU, and she stayed there. She had to have a surgery that basically put her on a machine that would circulate her blood for her, because her lungs, she only had about, on the left side, she had no lung. It was just totally not developed. And on the right side, she had about a half of a lung. And so they had to do what they could to give her time outside of me to grow those lungs. And so she had to be put on what's called an ECMO machine. It's a nasty machine. And the doctors had warned me beforehand, so it wasn't shocking or anything, but it basically acted as her heart and her lungs. And when they took her off of that machine, because you can only be on it so long, and then your body the blood doesn't function well outside the body. And so they said they had to take her off, and they really braced me for her not making it. They said, the odds are this isn't gonna work. But it was basically throwing everything at it to keep her alive. And shockingly, she came out of it great. She made it through that transition, and we were all kind of just took that deep breath, like, okay, we made it through the worst part. And I can still remember going to eat lunch, like even just leaving the, ICU was like, it just didn't happen. And I can remember being like, okay, everything's going to be okay now. And I went to have lunch, and I came back, and there were doctors in her room that weren't normally in her room. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? And as well as she did, she wasn't going to make it. And it's interesting to look back on it now, and like, just there's a part of me that just accepted it in a way, because you just don't want to see your child suffer like that. You just don't want to see it. Mm. And I knew they let me hold her. And so I held her, and they left me and her dad alone in the room with her. And I was holding her, and everybody left. They turned off all the machines, because you can tell from the machines what's going on. And I learned all those machines over the 9 days she was alive. And they left the room, and I can remember looking at her, and I looked at her dad, and I said, she's gone. And maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds later, a doctor walked in and said something to her dad, and he said, she already knows. And so it's like, I knew before they even came and told me. And that was really it was hard because I think whenever anybody has any sort of trauma in their life or loss, that's just, I mean, any of it, I think the hardest part, or one of the harder parts, is your world just stops. Everything stops. And it's the strangest thing because the rest of the world doesn't stop with you and it keeps moving. And that was one of the more surreal parts of it all, was that I just didn't know how to even, what was the next step. I didn't have anybody die in my life that I was responsible for. And it was even just like, what do I do now? Like, you know, how do I take care of me? What do I do for my sons? And how do I tell them? And just, a lot of confusion and sadness all at the same time. And it was just one of the worst, honestly, one of the worst things in my life. And if you knew my whole story of my whole life, there are other, bad things that happened in my life, but I'll tell you what, this is one that just totally, it was the most challenging. It really was in a lot of ways. And I think it was for a lot of people around me too.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa, because I know I'm tearing up here. I know how hard that is to share, and just your bravery, and the remembrance of, the lovely McKenna, lives on in your heart and your family's heart and your boy's heart. And, trying to figure out why did this happen? It tests your faith, it tests your emotional strength. And Lisa, you've already survived 100% of your worst days, and still here you are, wanting to be a better version, wanting to uplift other people through your lived experiences, and trying to find a message amongst the mess and the obstacles that are always presented to you throughout your life. And it's just a testimony that it's okay to say you need help. It's okay to lean on others when you need support. And we can only hold on for so long, especially as, as mothers and women, we're spinning all those plates in the air all the time. And, just taking care of ourselves and pouring into ourselves, because if we don't, we can't pour into anybody else. And you're just such a testimony to that. And I thank you once again for your bravery in sharing that story with us. And I just can't reiterate enough, like, the testimony to you and your character of overcoming and working on your personal growth to help others as well. And your journey at the moment, you're a powerhouse in the network marketing arena. You're inspiring people every day to live a healthier and better life and have a better mental well-being. And what kind of message would you like to leave everybody on today, Lisa?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that, like I said, we all have stuff. We all have, excuse my French, but we all have shit that we go through. We all do. And, I just know that it's okay, and know that as long as you can focus into the future on what you really want in life, what is it that you really want to strive for, and who is it that you want to be for other people? And those other people, it doesn't have to be that you have to save the world even, but who can you be for your spouse? Who can you be for your children? Who can be, if you're not married, don't have kids, then who can you be just for your friends and your community? And really, it's, if we all can just help each other and lift each other up and support each other and whatever our goals are in life, we're better for it and the world is better for it. And I just want everyone to know that, it doesn't matter what you've been through. And I don't mean that like to dismiss it. What I mean is that just always know that it always works out. But the biggest piece of it always working out is you deciding that it's going to work out. I can't imagine. I mean, the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and I kind of joke with my other kids that, the rule is nobody else dies before me. That's our rule in our family, because I don't know that I could handle it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know I could. I just don't want to. But it's like, even with my kids, teaching them that their hard days, their challenging days, they're learning from it. They are learning from it, and they're becoming better because of it. And that sometimes our challenges get really big and they feel overwhelming. But trust me, if just face your challenges along the way, and it's like a muscle. You're building it and you're getting stronger. And it may not be that you ever have to be stronger for yourself, but you need to be stronger for somebody else.
Very powerful indeed. Very powerful. Please connect with Lisa. She's very brave for sharing her story. You're very appreciated in the Victim to Victory community. And you are also a collaborative author in the Victim to Victory book. And that will be out on Amazon. So make sure you go and purchase the book from Amazon, the Victim to Victory book, where you can read Lisa's story as well. You can find the Victim to Victory podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And if you got value from today, which I know you have, please subscribe and comment, show support to Lisa, connect with her if you're wanting a mentor. And don't forget to check out the Launch Brand and Market podcast course in our show notes. And let me leave you with a message of wear your story like a superhero cape and not an anchor. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Tracy.
See you on the next episode.